Hello and welcome everybody to the Breakdown, the podcast covering all things Supporters Gaming League. I'm your host, Deb, joined by my co-host, Sean. How are you doing, sir?
I am fantastic, actually. Today is a great day.
That's wonderful to hear. And I'm having a wonderful day as well. And I know, hockey jersey, that tells you all. I don't need to go into detail. But yeah,
Hockey
let's
makes the
let's
world go
talk about
round.
it actually does. That's proven fact. Scientists
Just don't
discovered
tell that to Chris.
it. No, I'll definitely brag about it to him. But let's talk about this last weekend of matchups, shall we? Just had the start of SGL2 playoffs. Uh, and what makes SGL2 probably the most fun league to watch? It's not uniform at all. And it kept the same trend of being inconsistent in the way that things have been going.
Yeah, what a weekend of SGL2 action. There were upsets galore all over the place all weekend long. And there were some really good matchups, some really intense matchups. And there was some stuff nobody, I think, saw coming that came out of this weekend. And I think we should talk about it.
Yes, absolutely. Are we jumping into that right now? Let's just start talking.
Let's start talking. So, you had obviously SGL2, the first matchup of Friday, which was the start of the SGL2 playoffs. What it saw 3v4 the third place team in Group C facing the fourth place team in Group C, which would have been Black Army versus Viking Army. And in that one, we saw a 3v2 for the best of three series. Viking Army not able to field a full squad, and that was a bit unexpected because it was just a week prior to that we saw a full squad from Viking Army and finally got to see their best full squad out there, and they played phenomenal. And then coming into this week, this week of playoffs, they just did not have enough players to field for even a full roster, and they definitely dropped it to Black Army, and I think it was a fair result considering it was a 3v2.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Fair result. And I know we've seen Black Army be on more of the two-person side of the matchup, but, credit to them bringing three against those two. Viking Army still have been looking pretty good in defense, even at a 2v3, because they kind of focus on letting the play come to them. And they do tend to capitalize off that. But when a 3v2, it's just going to be tough to do. Not able to capitalize on this one. So Black Army are going to move on to their next match. Let's talk about the next Group D match. El Matador versus RGV Stampede.
Also 3v4, a number 3 versus number 4 seed coming out of Group D. That one was intriguing to me because we had seen an El Matador team in the last couple of weeks of the regular season that were just in fuego. I mean, they were playing phenomenal. And then they come against a RGV team that historically has been a very good team, but then this season, just regular season, for whatever reason, not up to their normal level of caliber. And this is one that I think was unexpected, and it's not a discredit to RGV. I mean, they're a good team. I've said that all season, but I didn't have enough faith, I think, in their play style, and they completely proved me wrong. Absolutely dominated El Matador. It was not even close in any of those three matches.
We mentioned in commentary, Pandy and I, or at least remember talking about RGV before, that we were not expecting RGV to come out with the kind of moxie that they did. The regular season, as you pointed out, was not showing that. We saw in the playoffs last season, just not quite there. But then all of a sudden, we saw the RGV that was playing in season 2 of the regular season. They went out and destroyed everything. They were, at least when I've talked to Firepulse after the matches, he said they were pre-jumping every pass.
Yeah.
Every backboard read was there.
Yeah, it was crazy. I was actually watching that match. The Surge had finished up their match before that, but was watching that matchup, and it was Eddie was 50ing everything. I mean, he wasn't just pre-jumping, but he was reading the game so fluidly. And then you had Bigby, who was just kind of following his lead, but in his own kind of way. And then, of course, you had Mike Lopez out there doing Mike Lopez things. And again, not a disservice to any of the three of them on that team, but with the form that El Matador were coming in with, you did not expect RGV to dominate it the way that they did. But hey, all credit to RGV. They dominated it, and they got to move on to the next round.
Yes, they do get to move on to the next round. And just before we get a little bit ahead to the losers bracket, let's start going to the next round of winners bracket, because we did end up seeing, we got to advance a little bit more before we catch up to the next day.
That's right.
So let's talk about Black Army versus the Surge, a matchup
Yes,
that we saw a little bit of a preview. Probably not the best that we've seen from the Surge, but you know what? You have to grind out wins with whatever roster you have at that given time.
Yeah, absolutely. And we came in pretty ready. We didn't necessarily have. Okay, I'm gonna say this, and most people know what happened, but in the middle of the second match, my computer decided to flat out shut down, just crashed.
Yep.
And so the minute and something that I was out of that match, which full credit to Nestor and full credit to Kevinho, for them to stay in that match. Actually, that was the first match. For them to stay in the match as long as they did without me there at all, it was 3v2 for a good 2 minutes of that match. I finally get in there and I'm like, oh God, this is the worst, because now I have to get my game speed back to that level, and I'm tilted because, of course, I've missed 2 minutes of this matchup. We still pulled it out, but man, that was frustrating. But once we kind of got back calmed down after, we gave up the second match. But once we got calmed back down and kind of got comfortable and back into our rhythm and our groove, I started playing a lot better in that third match, and we took the third match, and that was the deciding factor in that one overall.
Absolutely critical games for you guys there, getting you guys into the next round. Moving a little bit down, Group D again, RGV Stampede versus NYC12. We saw them just against El Matador. NYC12 are like, oh, we may not know what's going on here, because start to see a little more of a balanced team, but it was still the same RGV though.
It was, and NYC just could not handle the pressure. They couldn't handle the immediate challenges. They just couldn't handle RGV, and I think that's a trend we're starting to see in the playoffs at this point. Obviously, now we're 3 total matchups in after Saturday for RGV, so we kind of know what we're expecting now. But this is a different team than we saw in the regular season, and it does make me wonder, if we saw this RGV during the regular season, would they be the ones in the driver's seat in that U sector spot of first overall in their group? And it would technically be Tigers, but undefeated going into the playoffs with a very strong chance to go undefeated throughout the rest of the playoffs as well. Because this RGV team, I mean, I'll be honest, there's not a team in this playoff format in SGL2 that can handle them right now. And that's coming from a team that's still in it.
Yeah, you have to wonder after, previous season and then seeing the way they dominated here on Friday, that was something left to behold. And especially, I talked to both Luis and Firepulsa in scrims afterwards. They just said they were on something new, that they could have easily just won the entire playoffs if it was that night.
Yep.
And I'm like, wow, that is not something I expected, because I was not able to watch that first day.
Yeah, and it's not, again, it's not a knock on NYC12, but it was not. Look, seeing P-Diz out there, it was just not the PG-Diz? P-Diz? I don't know. Whatever.
PG-Diz?
PG-Diz. Seeing PG-Diz out there for the first time, it was nice, but at the same time, there was a lack of synchronization between the players on the field. You had Pandering out there and Firepulsa, who obviously have gotten a ton of scrims matches together and some in-season matches. But then you threw PG-Diz into the mix, and it's not that PG-Diz is a bad player by any stretch of the imagination, but you're just talking, it's a different setup, and it's a different look. You have to play with that player. You have to figure out their reads, you have to figure out their passes, you have to figure out how they're going to dribble, and then 100%. To try to do that on the fly with the way that RGV was playing, with that level of pressure, that level of hard-hitting physical action. Look at it. And RGV were not content to sit back and let the action come to them. This was the RGV that was aggressive from the very, very beginning of every match. And once they put the pressure on the other team, there was just no coming back for the other team.
Exactly so. But before we move on to Saturday's matchups, going a little bit further into winner's side, we got to go down just a little bit to the losers bracket, where we see our round 1 go up, Viking Army against El Matador. And with Viking Army having two people that night, it's about as much as you expected. El Matador taking this one.
Yeah, and El Matador needed that matchup in the second chance bracket. We don't call it the losers bracket around here, Debit. It's the second chance bracket.
We'll fight you on that.
Snowflake mode activate. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. It's a second chance bracket, but El Matador needed that series against Viking Army to kind of reset, collect themselves, get back into a groove, get back into a rhythm. As we had talked about in bracketology the week before, a team that goes, especially the first teams that lose their way into the second chance bracket, if one of those teams is going to come out of the second chance bracket, they're going to have to win a ton of series to make it all the way. And they're going to have to do it over the course of 2 full weekends. It's not just going to be one and done. It's 2 full weekends to make it all the way through. And we just started to see it with El Matador. We started to see them kind of change it up a little bit, get back into that comfort and rhythm. And it's a different El Matador team now that they're not playing RGV, and now that they feel like they don't have to worry about RGV for at least a little bit longer. But all credit and hats off to El Matador for picking themselves up and moving forward into the second round of the second chance bracket.
Still staying alive and trying to pick up the leftovers that are left behind. But now it's time to move into the second day. We're looking into Saturday now. Now we've got a highly anticipated match in the Surge versus U Sector. A lot of us expecting U Sector to repeat. But let's look at the Surge. Look at that roster they pulled out. What were you guys on?
Look, we've I've said this to you. We've been wanting to get that particular squad out there all season long, and it's just never worked out. Whether it was Bandana working on a Friday or on a Saturday, or Cam just not being available. But to get Cam, Bandana, and Cavino out there at the same time, look, it showed how good we are. It legitimately showed how good we are. We put U Sector on the back foot. I watched those matches, and that was the best by far that our Surge team has played. And it came at the right time. They peaked at the right time, and we hit at the right time because U Sector was that team we couldn't beat in the regular season. But here we are, undefeated season. No more U Sector. Sorry.
Yeah, not only did you give them their first loss of the season, you shut them out.
Yes, sir.
In the first loss of their season.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, Bandana and Cam deserve a ton of credit for how they were playing, and Cavino was just covering back so strong, creating just opportunity after opportunity and doing everything that he could to keep that ball out of the back of the net. And trust me, I was sitting in comms listening and muted, and it was just, I've never felt that energy with our team that level before, and you could tell it was calming, but in like a very strong, okay, we know we can handle these guys. We're not going to look past them, but we know we can beat them.
And certainly you did, as the Surge end up taking Group C, making their way through their own group's respective bracket, going on to face the winner of Group D as we talk about this matchup, RGV Stampede versus Tigers SG, a matchup we were probably expecting in last season's playoffs toward the grand finals, but now we get to see them in their literal group finals.
Yeah, and not to discredit RGV, but they definitely got I'm not going to say lucky, but they definitely hit at the right moment because Tigers SG did not have 3 full players to play for this entire series. They had 2. Senor Roboto and who was their third?
They had Julian with them.
That's right, Julian. But they only had 2, if I remember correctly. I don't think they had 3.
They did have 2.
They only had 2 the entire time. And so, when RGV are playing the way that they're playing right now, if you've only got 2 players, there's no chance. And that's not, it'd be different if we were talking SGL1 because there are some players that can 2v1, 2v1 or 3v2. But in SGL2, it's just a different beast. And, for as good as we know that Tigers SG can be, that was a tough result to watch from a Tigers SG perspective because, again, that's not what they anticipated coming into the series. That's not what they anticipated coming into the playoffs. But on the flip side, hey, there's still second chance bracket.
Exactly. They're still alive. Unfortunately, they had to go up 2v3 against a very physical RGV side, and that's always tough to deal with trying to get the rotations right and the defensive plays transitioning to offense. Just not quite Tigers' day, but as you mentioned, still alive. Now let's talk about this juicy losers bracket that we're starting to dip into as we move into our first match that was off stream in Black Army versus NYC 12 in a best of 3.
And yet another matchup where the one of the two teams did not have a full roster for the entire series in Black Army. And again, it's not a knock on the team that did have a full team. Hey, you fielded a full team, so you deserve to win just purely on that alone. But NYC 12 getting the work done, getting done what they needed to get done in order to advance to face El Matador from the previous round. And full credit to them, hats off to them for doing it, not giving any opening to Black Army to kind of sneak into the next round.
Absolutely. And this set up a matchup that happened in week 1, and we didn't see the full El Matador the way they were coming into shape. But now we get the rematch coming in a highly anticipated NYC 12 versus El Matador rematch. Take us through that one.
It's interesting to me. I mentioned this last week during bracketology. Did NYC 12, or actually I might have been on the stream, but did NYC 12 peak too soon in the season? They had that mid-season peak where Fire Pulse was just off the charts. Nobody could touch him. The rest of the team were playing solid behind him, but he was just on another level. With him peaking, it was different in the playoffs. It was different the last couple of weeks of the season. He was still playing well. He was still playing up to what kind of general perspective of what we anticipate from him, but it was not the full domination that we've come to expect from him. And, the result kind of speaks for itself. It's an El Matador that came in form. After hitting the second chance bracket, they just picked up. They moved themselves forward. They didn't let it drop them down too much, and they made it happen. And here we are. El Matador, took it to NYC 12, and they did what they had to do. It went three matches, which this was a best of 3 series. It did go 3 matches, but kind of what we anticipated, I think, when El Matador was facing RGV, but it didn't happen. Luis took over in match 3. 5 goals by himself, and that was enough. 5-1 was the final score. 5 goals for Luis by himself, even though he had help, obviously, but 5 goals for Luis. He carried his team into the next round, and full credit to Luis. I mean, it was an impressive showing, and I got to watch that one as the kind of admin/moderator that was kind of watching to make sure things went smoothly. Man, he was as strong as 5 goals to a single player sounds when you win 5-1. It was even more impressive than that watching live. I mean, he was everywhere, and there was nothing that NYC 12 could do to slow him down at all.
And before we kind of, just wrap up what happened, before we preview these coming matchups, I want to shout out you because you were giving Pandy and myself live updates in commentary channel as we were commentating. Pandy having his Kevin Harlan, I'm calling both games moment.
It was incredible watching, and I had the stream up I have the stream on one screen with Discord chat kind of off to the side. I've got the actual matchup that I'm watching, NYC 12 versus El Matador. And you had said to me, Devitt, as we're sitting in the commentary chat, you're like, hey, just send us goal updates. And I'm like, okay. So this is a 5-minute match. There were 6 goals, and there was a period where there were 3 goals within like a 1.5-minute span. And I'm just like furiously typing every time another goal happens. And like you said, full credit to Pandy. I mean, he went full Kevin Harlan, and it was amazing to watch because that's the commentary level that we know that he can get to. And if he can keep it up, I mean, he wants to do commentary long term. I could definitely see it after that.
Definitely got a knack for it. I wanted to see him continue with that as well. But now we've gotten to this point. Gone through 2 days. We still got 2 more days left to go.
Yes, we do.
And that final day is going to be the longest of the freaking year. But before we jump to that big day.
That's right. We're not there quite yet, but very close.
We just got to set up Saturday. But still a ton of quality matchups because we've got a winner's, I refer to as finals sometimes, but
semi-final, if you will, of the entire
semi-final of the bracket, but otherwise
group winner versus group winner. Take your pick. They all fit.
Group winner, all that. Not number 1 seeds playing each other. In the Surge and RGV playing against each other. Quite poetic, I might say, just in the soccer realm as well.
That's right. Something I want to note, and we'll talk about it a little bit more, but because El Matador have made it as far as they have, it sets up the possibility of an all-Texas semifinal and final on stream. I am excited for this because that's Texas domination at its best. And someone made the comment we should just rename it to Texas GL, and I feel like right now with how we're playing, that seems very, very comfortable. I'm good with it. Let's do it.
I'm ready for it at this point. You guys have already like half the league already. You might as well just be your own section in SGL 1 and 2.
Yeah, so talking about the matchup, RGV versus the Surge. This is, I mean, you know, I said it earlier. If RGV continue playing the way that they did last weekend, it is going to be very tough. And I will tell you right now, out of the gate, we don't have Bandana on Friday. And that's going to be very difficult. However, we've gotten some coaching pointers. Thank you, Laurenthio. We've gotten some ideas of how to defend and how to deal with the high aggression, high pressure. We've got some ideas. We're going to see how they work. I wouldn't count us out quite yet. But all credit to RGV. If they continue playing like they are, I don't care how good we play. They're going to take it.
Interesting. All right, predicting your fate. But we just got to wait and see until Friday at that point.
That's right. So what about that?
Definitely.
What about that second chance bracket matchup that we didn't see coming, but we all wanted without knowing it? Tigers SG versus U Sector, 1v1. Number 1 versus number 1. Group C versus Group D. Thank you, Sakar gods, I suppose. What we would call
I don't know
them.
at this point. I guess so, because honestly, I shouldn't have like tricked myself into thinking that SGL2 was uniform and it'd be 1 seed versus 1 seed. In fact, I was pretty confident just in U Sector alone getting to that point. But no, we see them in losers bracket. If they lose, they're out at like what, 4th place? Wait, no, 5th place.
Yeah, 5th place.
Yeah, they're out 5th.
Yeah.
Like, what is this? Perfect regular season. They could be out at 5th depending on how they play against Tigers. And this has got to be something interesting, because this is a team of absolute passing plays back and forth, backboard abusers, might I add, and somebody on the team that you can always rely to either get a solid touch or a solid shot. So I see a lot of similar qualities in both these teams that, honestly, I wish we had more of.
I don't argue that at all. I am kind of sad that we are not going to be streaming that matchup because, what an incredible matchup and opportunity. But timing wise, it's just not going to work out. And frankly, you kind of already hinted Saturday is going to be such a long day of streaming that we didn't want to try to make it even worse on Friday, but by adding an extra matchup at the end of Friday by throwing that one on stream as well. So Friday is only going to be the one on-stream matchup, but it's going to be a best-of-7 RGV versus the Surge, and then off-stream at the same exact time that matchup is going on is going to be Tigers versus U Sector in a best-of, I think that's a best-of-5. We're at that point where anybody can take it. And El Matador is still hanging off there in the wings, waiting for the winner of that matchup.
The fact that El Matador are now going to be guaranteed higher than the number 1 seed in the playoff bracket.
They're gonna hit 4th at minimum. I mean, incredible work from them to hit 4th at minimum in the playoffs. And that's, again, we don't know where this is going to shake out. We don't. As good as RGV have been, as good as the Surge have been, as good as U Sector have been throughout the season, as good as Tigers SG were in the last few weeks of the season, as good as El Matador have been in this playoff stretch in the last few weeks of the season, there's no predicting this thing anymore. Like, it's just been completely anybody who predicted brackets, and I know there was some talk about, hey, we should do a bracket prediction contest. There would be nobody left in this thing. Like, there would be absolutely everybody's bracket is completely broken because nobody's predicting that a number 1 seed and a number 1 seed are not going to make it to one of the two of them aren't going to make it to the final. And yet here we are. There's a very good chance that even if Tigers or U Sector win on Saturday, well, one of them will win, obviously, but whoever of that matchup wins on Friday, they're going to have to go right back into the grinder against El Matador on Friday as well. And El
Exactly.
Matador, the way that they're playing right now, I wouldn't put it past El Matador to win that matchup.
No, I wouldn't put it past them at all. And honestly, if I'm looking at that matchup, looking ahead, I'm not even sure if you have like a particular favorite that you want to see. I guess the only advantage I could potentially see is you'd kind of want to see Tigers, just because Luis is used to playing Maz and Scrims and every once in a while. So I guess their play styles have kind of, at least they can kind of become predictable in that regard. But honestly, for the most part, it's very much a crapshoot.
It absolutely is, and it speaks to I think the parity of SGL2, because I think if we're honest with ourselves, we don't necessarily see this as a possibility happening in SGL1. We don't see the roadies not making it to at least the semifinal. I don't see, no discredit to Coopers or to who's the other two teams?
Cauldron.
Coopers or Cauldron in that division. And there's another one in their division too, their group as well.
I mean, Mad Hat has a possibility.
Mad Hat has a possibility. Again, we've seen what El Matador have done. Don't put it past Mad Hat to go through that second chance bracket. But at the same time, for as good as the Cauldron are, for as good as Coopers have been, for as good as Mad Hat can be, they're not taking down the roadies if the roadies have their full three. Whereas, on the flip side, on the other bracket, you're not taking down Cinco Doce unless you have your full three. So
yeah. Sorry.
I mean, I'm just being real. Dark Clouds, maybe, dark horse candidate for that. But I'm gonna be honest with you, Southmost ain't taking it, and that's not discredit to Southmost. However, having said that, here comes RGV to totally throw out any thought that I have that may be the case. So it's like, as much as we've talked about the parity of SGL2 through the last 3 weeks of the season, you and I on the breakdown here, live on the show. Well, not live, but recorded on the show. As much as we've talked about the parity of SGL2, you're seeing it happen before your very eyes repeatedly over and over and over again. And what I'm hoping is this can inspire some teams, I don't know, like maybe a Steel Army, that even if you don't win your first matchup against Southmost, you guys are not out of it. Nope. Don't get down on yourselves. You guys have a very strong chance to be able to run through some of these other teams. Again, it's a little different in SGL1, I think, than SGL2, but anything can happen. I know you guys have been getting a few pointers and coaching tips from a certain someone in the league.
No, yeah, you're absolutely right. The improvement of SGL1 has been about the same. Teams are starting to get used to each other a lot more, so that means you're going to see a lot of tighter matchups. In SGL2, it's pretty much a constant that things are just not going to go the way you think they are.
Absolutely. So I got to ask, now that we've talked about kind of the matchups that are left over, the matchups that are upcoming. And then, of course, the winner of El Matador versus the winner of Tigers SG and U Sector will then face the loser of RGV and the Surge. And then that winner between those two, El Matador or not El Matador, but the second chance winner, shall we call it, versus the loser of the semifinal. That winner will then go on to the grand final, which is, by the way, a best-of-3 series of best-of-7 matches. And holy moly, that's a lot of matches for people that don't know and are not accustomed to it. And, I mean, anything could happen. You could see RGV versus El Matador. You could see RGV versus the Surge. You could see the Surge versus El Matador, the Surge versus Tigers or U-Sector. I mean, everything is still open. All 5 of these teams are completely still in it. And whomever loses between the Surge and RGV, you have to feel very strongly that they're going to have a chance on Saturday to at least make it to the grand final. And, man, it's really strange to say we're technically only 2 matchups away from we being the Surge, or 2 matchups away from the grand final. One, if we lose, if we win, we're in the grand final. Be honest, I didn't predict that, nor did I see it coming, but it's been a wonderful experience for us, and it just goes to show you, no matter how you start the season, no matter how you play through the season, as long as you're in it in the playoffs, as long as you make it into the playoffs, you have a chance to make it as far as you want to make it and as far as you believe you can make it. And I just know that this is proof positive that this is a great, fantastic league, and a full credit to Chris, full credit to the admins for the work that they've put in until this point. And, hey, just get ready to enjoy it, because this weekend is going to be off the charts.
It makes me really sad that I have to watch this thing from my phone down in Virginia, and I'm not able to commentate this grand finals because, my goodness, I would have loved to be in this kind of commentary situation. Absolutely. This amount of games, dehydrated as all heck. just trying to say the right things, all the hype moments. It's a shame them missing it all. Maybe I'll get another chance sometime,
I'm sure you will.
But that's just more to tell you guys. Don't miss it.
Yeah, absolutely. Don't miss it. I don't know how else we can hype it up. I mean, I think that's pretty well
No.
hyped at this point. But, man, it's just crazy that for all of this that we've gone through now with SGL2, the week after this, October, 22nd? We turn around and we start doing it all over again with SGL1. Friday and Saturday, and then turn around the next week, Friday and Saturday again. As fun as this has been, we're not done. We're going to run it right back with SGL1 action. And trust me, as fun as SGL2 has been, as amazing as SGL2 has been, as many upsets as SGL2 has brought us, SGL1 has the possibility to have some as well. So don't write it off because you know the best two teams are probably going to make it. Just know that that's not always the case.
No, you have the opportunity for several crazy plays that kind of just work and you didn't expect to work. That's just the reality of the play in SGL1. A lot of skill, a lot of mechanics, a lot of passing plays. They do what needs to get done. But as you mentioned before, we got to get through SGL2 first. So definitely stick around for that. But that'll just about wrap it up for us here as far as breaking down what's happened so far and what we have yet to see here in SGL2. As for now, we'll let the play kind of speak for itself as we advance forward in the playoffs. We'll see you guys on Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern, 7 Central, if my memory serves me right. That would be right.
That's correct.
At twitch.tv at Supporters Gaming League. Go follow that, by the way, if you're not. And also, Saturday, the big finale. Starting at 12 p.m. Eastern, right? Or 1 p.m. Eastern. Whatever time it is. Honestly,
we'll talk about that later because I'm not exactly sure. I think we've decided on noon though. Noon Central, 1 p.m. Eastern.
Gotcha. Whatever time in the early afternoon that may be, just be ready for it because you don't want to miss it. Well, that about does it for us here at the Breakdown. And once again, thank you for viewing it. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel to support all Supporters Gaming League stuff, and just so you can sort of see on your nice little YouTube feed whenever we upload, you get to see our faces every week. It'll pop and be like, oh yeah, those guys. And as always, whenever we get to the SGL action, make sure to watch on twitch.tv/Supporters Gaming League for all SGL1 and SGL2 action. And be sure to follow Supporters Gaming League on Twitter at SupportersGL and on Instagram at Supporters Gaming League. I'm Debit. Sean, you got anything else before we take it out of here?
No, sir. I'm just ready to call it a day.
Go watch SGL. That does it for us. And thank you for watching. Peace. If you enjoy high-octane, true parody-driven playoff intensity and Rocket League content, then you have to tune in Friday, October 15th, beginning at 7 p.m. Central Time over at twitch.tv/Supporters Gaming League.
And while you're there, give us a follow, and if you can, drop us a sub. Or you know what? Share out the stream link and help us grow. That's right, Friday, October 15th at 7 p.m. Central. See you there!